Give me them good times. Give me them good times. Give me them good times. Give me them good times.
What is up, Lexi, and welcome back to Spokast. I'm your host, Brendan Pointer, and first off, shout out to my good friend Jinx Universe for letting me use his song Good Times as the intro to this episode. Go stream it wherever you listen to music. I know it's been a minute since our last episode. It's been about a month. I've been a bit MIA over the past month, but for a good reason. I've been hard at work behind the scenes, building Spokast as a business and really focusing on gaining new clients while improving the experience of my current clients. It's all been super exciting and a very, very busy time with all the events that have been happening, volume, terrain, a couple other things mixed in there. And I want to say I can't wait to share everything I've been working on, but I kind of have been sharing it on Instagram and other places, really trying to get more involved in LinkedIn. I'm not sure if it's ever going to become a thing for me. I really want to do LinkedIn as a business building social media, but it's very hard for me to do that. It's just not me. But as a solo entrepreneur, it really needs to be something I do because I need to gain more clients. And I should say at the beginning of this, if you're looking to start your own podcast, that's what Spokast does here. We have about 15 independent podcasts that produce their podcasts right here in our studios. I have the likes of Adam Morrison, former Zag legend, producing his podcast here. My friend Blue Stiley, a model, fitness expert, and now motivational speaker doing his podcast here. Joshua Hassan from HDG doing If Not Now When, talking all about downtown Spokane and how we can better our city. There's just so many podcasts, and sorry if I didn't mention them, but there's just a lot happening here. And if you want to start your podcast, come talk to me. I'm here to help you get it started with really good equipment. I help you edit it. I help you publish it. I do it all. So I don't just do Spokast. Actually, the other day, someone asked me how's Spokast going? That's all you do, right? The podcast. And I'm like, oh man, that's not all I do. I mean, it's one part of what I do here at Spokast. It's a small part, but I also have, a business of a ton of other podcasts that I produce. And it really hit me that I really need to talk more about that and less about, this podcast. This podcast is great, but I also need to, this is just a tool to help people understand that I can help produce podcasts, but I'm never really good at explaining that. So one half a podcast about Spokane, the other half a production studio where podcasts in Spokane are created. So that's what I've been working on. But now I really want to jump back in to why we're here and what we're here to talk about. My amazing guest, Danny Suede. He is an incredibly talented artist who has roots in hardcore rock and someone whose passion for music runs deep within his family. From his great-grandmother, a pianist in Alaskan saloons, to his brother, Ben Swade, who introduced him to the music world, Danny's journey is one built on exploration, creativity, and finding his own voice. We're going to be diving deep into Danny's unique sound, what he calls meta pop, as well as his experiences touring with bands and his latest singles like Okay, Hold Me Down, and how he's been balancing the pressures of the music industry while staying true to himself. Plus, we're going to get into him embarking on a new chapter, embracing a new nomadic lifestyle, and stepping back from the world of social media. We're going to hear all his thoughts on what it means to create art with authenticity and purpose in today's digital age. This was a fantastic conversation. It happened about 2 months ago, and I was blown away by how amazing Danny was, and his story and his thoughts and on life, social media, all the things it was very, helped me become a little bit more introspective of how I show up in places like social media with my family and with my friends and with my business, and really look at is what I'm doing in social media what I want to be doing? Do I spend my time here smartly? Am I a slave to it? And we get really deep into that at the end of the episode. And I just really loved his outlook on life. And I really like, he reached out to me and said, hey, you should check out my music. And I listened to it. I'm like, this is right up my alley. I love some good pop music, and his sound is just very unique, and has like vibes of K-pop, traditional pop, what I will say, like kind of floaty pop as well. Like just like you listen to it and you just like, it takes you to a different space. So I am very excited for you to listen to this episode with Danny Suede. I do need to shout out his latest single that we did not talk about on this episode of Spokast, Who Am I, which was released last month in September. Go listen to Danny wherever you're streaming your music. Add it to your playlist. Do all the things. Share it on social media. It's very, very good music and needs to be celebrated, especially as an artist who is based here in Spokane, Washington. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Here is musician, artist, creative, Danny Suede. This is Spokast.
The way my podcast works is I'll do a little bit of an intro, kind of tell everyone who Danny Suede is, and then we'll roll into it, and I'll say, I don't ever really do it like this, but like, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for reaching out to me. I'm here with Danny Suede, a local musician, producer. Are you a producer?
Yeah.
And an artist that's just doing really cool things. And you hit me up saying that you're like leaving on a trip. You're going to go to Thailand and Bali, and that you had a short amount of time to get on the podcast. I was like, let's make this happen.
Let's do it. We did it.
So we did it, and here we are. So thank you. I had your brother, one half of Carmen Jane, Ben Suede, on the podcast. Man, that was it was like a year and a half ago now. And him and
Carmen.
It's Carmen.
Yep. Carmen.
Yeah, Kate. Yeah, and they seem to be killing it in LA. They're just posting all the time, and I went. My kid's very first show was the Carmen Jane show at their go away, their last show at the Cracker Building.
Yeah.
And my kids talk about it all the time.
Nice.
And meeting Carmen, and you were there too, I imagine.
I played the drums.
You played the drums, right?
Yeah.
So
I was there.
That was such a cool show, and my daughter was just like front row, like just like loving it. And so you made fans out of my
amazing.
kids.
I love to hear that. That's sick.
But let's talk about your beginnings in Spokane. Like, are you born and raised here?
No. So I was born in Boise.
Yep.
I moved here when I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
So my parents are from here. My grandparents are from here. So we moved back just to be closer to family, I think, at the time. And that was when I was 10, yeah. And we moved out to Micah. So we were living out we had some property out there. So we were in the woods, which for me, coming from like a suburb, imagine like three brothers getting, we got ATVs and we're out there paintballing and ripping it. And it was amazing. Went to Freeman.
I was going to say, did you go to Freeman?
Yep.
Nice.
And then, lived there for, a long time. And then eventually Ben left and went on tour. And then after a while, he brought me to go drum tech and do photos and video for the band. So there was a stint of time where I was just traveling all the time, most of the year with him. And then eventually at the end of that stint, we moved to LA for a year. And I think that was 2016 maybe.
Oh, okay.
And then we were there for like a year or two, year and a half-ish, then moved back here. And then we moved into a big house like with my brothers and some friends. And we just had a big house of homies. Did that for 2 to 3 years, and then moved to LA about a year and a half ago. Okay. And then I just got back.
Oh, so you moved back. So
technically. So we can get into it. But the whole thing with the trips is, when we went to LA, we all went down there to just go send it, right? We're like, want to go where there's some opportunity, want to go make connections and just, be in the mix, right?
Yeah.
And less so for Ben and Carmen, but at least for me, like that just didn't happen because I went to some parties, went and did some stuff, met some people, went to some shows, but I'm such an introvert that I just spent all the time in my room. I was just in my room vibing out, working, playing music, making music, and I'm just, the only friends I really had there were friends that, like some from Spokane that have moved there too, right?
Okay,
and so like it was just, the cost of living is insane, and I was just kind of looking at everything, and I was just like, I don't need to be here. And so, yeah, I came back here just to set up my business here, basically to avoid the California taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then my plan is to just basically travel the rest of the year in 2025 and come back here and there, have it as home base. But, you know, the spot I have in Bali, I was looking at my monthly expenses and everything, and I was looking on Airbnb, and I was like, dude, like Spence and I, you know, this winter have a spot in Bali on the beach with a pool, really nice spot, and it evens out to the same cost of living. So since I work remote, I was like, dude, I'm like, I can't do this to myself, like staying in this other house when I could be living like that. And same thing with Thailand, like the spot we have is amazing. The cost of living so low, and I don't know exactly what I'm gonna find living like that, living kind of nomadically and trying that out. I might hate it. It might be really difficult. I might love it. Yeah. I don't know what to expect, but I'm going to try it out for a bit. And that's where I'm at right now, and just focus on music. And I'm, you know, we can talk about, I'm planning on basically retiring from social media at the end of this month, focusing on just creating YouTube videos, long form, doing my blog, which we could also talk about, which I've loved doing. And then just really focusing on music big time. Yeah. And just slowing down. Yeah. As far as like what I'm intaking. So that's kind of the plan. So that's where I'm at right now. So that's a lot. Sorry.
Man, no, that's great. I have a lot of questions from that. Go. The one I wanted to kind of touch on first, kind of in the beginnings, like you talked about touring and that you were doing all that back, and this is like the mid 2010s, I'm assuming. So what band was that with? And like, I mean, where does this like love for music come from in your family? Because you're a musician. Are you? Spence, who's in the studios with us, is also kind of a musician.
He's definitely a musician. Amazing singer. Okay. He's humble.
But like, where did this all come from in your family?
I always just say it's in the blood. Like, you know, I know my great grandma was an incredible musician. She's from Alaska, and she would play organ and piano in like the saloons and stuff, and it was like a mining town, and she just had just hundreds of songs committed to memory, and you know, everyone's in there and they're giving her requests and she's playing. And I think she would play for like silent movies and stuff, so she just had an insane memory, super musical. And then so my grandma, her daughter, also singer, super musical. My grandpa was like a jazz musician, so he was played saxophone and like big band type stuff. And he was, I never heard him play, but he was apparently really talented. Totally passed it on to my dad, who, you know, he played saxophone as well. You know, at least when they were in high school, he went to U-High, and their jazz band just like won all these awards, and he did marching band, and he was just super dedicated and dialed at the time, really talented, and really musical. So, and then my mom's side of the family, she is musical. She doesn't really play music that much, but she grew up playing piano. My grandma on that side also was incredibly musical, always singing. When we were growing up, they're always singing with us and doing music. So it was just, we were around it. It was in the blood. I was in piano lessons when I was little. I didn't love it. It was kind of a chore learning stuff. But I remember like eventually, like when I got a piece in front of me that I had to learn that I liked, and I was like, I kind of learned it well, and I was like, oh, this is sick. So I did that. And then kind of let it go for a while. And Ben, when he was little, he was in guitar lessons. He eventually got a hold of like an electric guitar and just started going. And then he started a band at the school, and their drummer had his drum set at our house where they would practice. And there was one day I was just sitting back there, just hanging, you know, on the drum set, and I just kind of like, and I was like, dang. And just from that point, like once I felt like a little groove, I just went ham, and I just played and played and played. Eventually got my own drum set, and then started playing with Ben a lot. We did our own little bands and stuff when we were younger. So, and it was just from that point, I just basically never looked back. Like I was just like, some type of music was a huge part of my life from that point on. Never even questioned it up to this day. And I don't think he did either. You know, it was crazy because at least at that time with him, it was really inspiring to me because, at least looking back, because he was into metal, right? There was like the metal scene was blossoming, like the hardcore scene, like Attack and those bands. And he just loved it, right? And he like kind of stopped playing sports, which he was pretty good at, to do the music, and started wearing skinny jeans and the emo cut. And out at Freeman, dude, you know, it's like a, you know, country vibe out there. So he got roasted by everyone, and he just did not, it's not that he didn't care, but he just knew that he loved doing that and just kept doing it. everyone, including me, unfortunately, was like, dude, this is never going to go anywhere. Like, what are you doing? Like, you look like an idiot, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't that mean, but, everyone's rolling their eyes at him. And then, next thing he's putting his covers on Facebook, gets picked up by this band, goes, tries out, does a music video, immediately gets signed to Rise Records and just literally starts touring. And then was touring freaking the world for like a couple years after that and got to go everywhere, had a top 10 album on Billboard, ripped it, and then brought me along. And so I initially went to drum tech for them. And I drum teched for the drummer, and then I started doing like a lot of photo and video stuff, which I got into so I could film my own drum covers. So I had that skill level, and I was doing a lot of photography at that time as well. Because I dropped out of school literally to do photo and video because I was just ripping it and making money, and I was like, bro, I got other things. I had my band too, and we got a record deal from Rise. We didn't sign it, but so that was all happening. So I just dipped out of school, and was like, I'm out, and was doing that. And so I had a lot of photography and video background. So I was doing that for the band, and then through that, I just made a bunch of connections and had the opportunity to tour with other bands and get other work and do other tours aside from that. And yeah, so that's kind of how that all went. And
that's crazy.
That's a long answer.
No, it's great. No, I just it's really cool to see. I mean, so is Rise Records? Is that what kind of label is that?
It mainly has hardcore bands, I think.
Okay.
I don't know what other bands are on there right now. I know they got bought by BMG. So I'm not sure what other bands are on there. I haven't really stayed in touch with it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I was just curious if it was so hardcore, but like, so that was like your intro into like the scene, like, but that's like a trial by fire. It seems like just being so into it so quick. I imagine like seeing that success and seeing like, your brother do it and you're being a part of it. And like, how did you stay grounded?
Great question, dude. So, a quick correction. So when I was in the band I was in that got a record deal, they actually signed it. I'm pretty sure. I left the band because they didn't want to sign it.
Gotcha.
It just seemed kind of sketchy at the time. I think it more or less panned for them, but so that's what happened. But staying grounded, it's interesting you say, because I left school in 8th grade to do online school. And then I've always been kind of weird, but I became really weird at that point because I didn't even I had like online teachers, but it was just me by myself with my dog every day, till sophomore year of high school when I actually like literally dropped out. And then too, I was raised in a not insanely conservative household, but religious, like just Christian, pretty conservative household.
Yeah.
So we weren't like super sheltered, but it wasn't, it was kind of not sheltered isn't the right word, but just it's fundamentally different than being on tour with a rock band. Okay, let's just say that. So, luckily, once I went on tour, Ben had kind of figured out how to navigate that space coming from where we came from. Mm-hmm. So he held my hand and helped me a lot. But luckily, I got out of there pretty much unscathed. But it was literally like, nothing. I was probably smoking a little weed when we left, but when I left, but I was kind of getting into that a little bit. But it was like once we went on tour, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll full blast, like just crazy. And so it was like a tornado because I was like a homeschooled, basically online kid, and I just get thrown into pirate's life. And like I said, luckily, the dudes I toured with too, they kind of knew where I was at and they helped me too. Like, hey, don't do this. And if you're going to do that, watch out for this and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it was a free for all. And, I think luckily the way I was raised and the values that my parents and my grandparents instilled in me helped me navigate that in a way that I didn't end up making any terrible mistakes. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot, had a lot of amazing experiences. And like I said, Ben was luckily wise enough and smart enough to navigate that navigate it well. Mm-hmm. And he kind of helped me out too. And so that's kind of how it went. And I just think we just, not like we didn't make any mistakes, but I think that's how I don't even know if we stayed grounded. I think, it's like you say, how do we stay grounded? I didn't. I kind of flew up in the air and flew around and just imagined and managed to not be, have anything bad happen for the most part.
So after you didn't sign the deal, you came back to Spokane?
No, I was in Spokane. So
you were in
I was
Spokane.
with a band called Light Up the Sky, who's now Paloma.
Oh.
A lot of the members, that was like originally where we were at. So yeah, and then they went and toured and stuff and everything. And yeah, when I left, I think I was mainly just kind of focused on doing video and photo at that specific time. But not long after that, I went on tour with Ben. Yeah.
Second question from your first thing that you talked about, I want to ask is, so what you mentioned you do your business. So what is your business?
So it's Danny Suede.
Okay.
So it's Danny Suede LLC, which I actually just made into an LLC, but I do a ton with it. And most of the income comes from me doing client work, which is like a lot of video work, 3D animations, 3D work, and visual art, right? So that's like a lot of the income, but it's everything I do is under the umbrella. So I do a lot of visual art for myself. I do a lot of music for myself, and I do a lot of visual art for other clients. Like I work with Ben and Cammy a lot, and do other jobs and stuff like that. But my artist, Danny Suede, is under that umbrella too. So it's kind of like everything I'm doing artistically, video or music wise, all fits under that. So that's kind of how I have it set up right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to bore our audience with it, but I'm definitely going to pick your brain about some of that stuff after we talk.
Please.
I want to talk about like the beginnings in Spokane of just like living here. Like when you got here, I love asking people like, what is your first memory of being in Spokane?
Oh, wow. Great question. You know, I had been to Spokane before because like I said, my grandparents lived here, and I know it doesn't necessarily count, but we grew up, my grandparents had a house on Coeur d'Alene Lake, so we grew up going there all the time too. So
it counts.
Like, it counts?
Coeur d'Alene's part of, I mean, it's all the same region.
In my head, it counts, yeah. So that was a lot of the experience was that Coeur d'Alene and the lake and everything. And then moving here, like I said, it was a lot of the valley, and like we were out in Micah. So like for me, the novelty was being out in the woods and just having acreage and being able to paintball and do airsoft and like build forts and like explore and do all that fun stuff. So I think that was like what really sticks in my head. As far as the city goes, I think it's really too just the valley. Like my grandparents lived in the valley, and you know, we'd go visit them a lot and be there a lot, and just kind of the chill vibes, the pine trees. You know, I had we joined a church in the valley, and I had a really close friend that I made there, and then we would just skate around like around U-High area, like in the valley, and just, you know, be hoodlums and everything. And like that was a lot of my experience, you know, and not a lot of downtown at first or anything like that.
Yeah,
so that's what I think of.
I never had much downtown. I grew up on the north side, like near Mount Spokane High School, but whenever I talk to people that grew up in the valley, I always like kind of get jealous because I feel like as a kid, the valley, you could probably just ride around the valley like forever when you're a kid. And I only had like my neighborhood that I lived in. But yeah, I imagine you could just get lost in the valley as a kid.
Yeah, we just skated, dude. We were just little hoodlums skateboarding around, trying to find anything to grind on or, you know.
That's awesome.
Jump over.
So we're going to just transition a little bit to a quick game I want to play. It's called the Spokast Hot List. And I'm going to ask you questions, or not questions. I'm going to say a word, and you're going to say the first word that comes to your mind as it relates to Spokane. It can be Coeur d'Alene, it can be Spokane Valley, it can be wherever in this area. But this is the first word or first place that comes to mind. And the first one I always start with is park.
Manitou. I know that a lot of these answers are going to be basic.
No, that's great. I mean, they're kind of. I mean, they're kind of meant to be.
Okay,
like
cool.
Coffee.
Indaba.
Burger.
Durkins.
Shopping.
Probably River Park Square.
Brewery.
I don't know if this is a brewery technically. When I think of like beer or drinking beer, I think of Flat Stick.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
No, I mean, is
that a brewery?
It's not a brewery, but it's definitely like they have a ton of local beers on tap, and but they have like a crazy amount on tap.
Yeah,
so it's definitely it definitely counts.
Okay,
yeah.
We're good. We're
good. Sweet treats.
I don't know. I think of. I'm not really a big sweets guy. I think of these crazy cookies we used to always get at My Fresh Basket. They would make these like big ass cookies that were just gnarly.
Sounds like what Gage Lang does out at God, I can't think of what he was like. I interviewed him on another podcast a long time ago, but they're really good cookies.
That's crazy. We used to record with him, I think.
Yeah,
Gage Lang.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Small world.
He has a place in the valley called gosh, what is it called?
I'll have to check that. He's doing like a bakery or something.
He does. He has a bakery. He's
Let's
a pastry. Brudu. Or
Okay.
Bordeaux. It's like, yeah. But
It's in the valley?
It's in the valley, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, and he also
That's
has
sick.
like a ice cream place too.
Nice. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it's called High Voltage.
Wow, good
High
for him.
Voltage Ice Creamery. So yeah, that's what he's doing.
Cool.
No, I interviewed him and I was like just interviewing him about his cookies, and then I found out about this entire world where he used to like, he was a frontman for like a band. That's funny. Brunch,
The Yards.
neighborhood.
I don't even know.
Micah's a neighborhood.
Okay, yeah, Micah. We'll go for Micah.
Dishman, yeah, Micah, artist, visual.
Ooh. Visual artist?
Yeah, because
I don't know. Immediately, if I think of like a visual artist, I probably think of Cammie, like doing her photography. But
Yeah.
it's a music artist. I would say I think of Maddie Mullins.
Okay, that's the last question I asked.
Okay. Oh, you go music artist?
No,
Okay, yeah.
it's fine. Pizza.
I think we would usually go for Brothers.
I need to go to Brothers because I'd never been there, and everyone who's from lives in the valley talks about Brothers.
Is that was the spot? Yeah.
Music venue,
The Knit.
event.
Also would mention the Boulevard, which I don't think is a thing anymore.
No, it's
but when
not.
we were a band, when we were little, that was like our stomping grounds, our first thing we did. So I definitely think of that.
Oh
Yeah.
man, how old are you?
28, just turned
Okay.
28.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
Dude, we were kids, bro. We were
Yeah.
like little kids.
because that was demolished like 15 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and then event.
Off the top of the dome, Hoop Fest is what comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
there's
basic.
there's a couple other
Or
ones.
Bloomsday.
I say Bloomsday, Hoop Fest, Terrain,
Yeah.
Pig Out in the Park.
Yeah.
Volume's back, which is great, which is nice that it's that there's some music that's back. Yeah, and the last one I was going to ask was music artist. And who?
Yeah,
And you said
Maddie Mullins.
Maddie Mullins.
Just comes off the top of the dome. I remember when we were starting, we kind of look at him and we were like, that's sick that he got out of here, and like made it from here. And that's kind of who I thought of at the time.
Yeah,
Which I think he just joined another band and started fronting for another band.
interesting.
I forget who it is, but yeah.
Was Maddie Mullins like a solo? I don't.
No,
I'm not
he
familiar.
was a singer for a band called Memphis Mayfire, which was out of Texas.
Okay.
But at least in the scene, when Ben was starting, like when he was first getting in there, they were a big artist in the scene, or like one of the main artists, I would say.
Yeah.
And so we actually had the chance to tour with him too and meet him, but he's from here. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, the next thing I want to get into is the recent music you've been putting out. Like, because the first thing when you reached out, I like immediately went to Spotify and listened to. I think the first thing I listened to was Okay.
Okay.
And then I just went down a list of I just wanted to list off all the 2024 releases that
Okay,
you
let's
have.
go.
You have Okay, Lotus, Basket Boy, Long Way Up with Gatlin Dean Williams, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Princess, and then Hold Me Down.
Let's
and
go.
I and then I was like, but I was trying to figure out where to go with all of this, but I wanted to, like, you've been in I mean, like, how would you describe the Young Sires music?
That's a good question. I would say we call it future pop.
Okay.
But it's like a version of EDM pop kind of music, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. Electronic.
But you also come from this more hardcore rock scene, but then a lot of this music is very like, well, you call it meta pop. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, meta pop, yeah.
Meta pop, and I was like, and as I was talking off camera with you earlier when you got here, it was just like, I was like, I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
pop music. I was expecting something different, and
Interesting.
I love, like, pop music is like probably the one thing I am most like magnetized to when it comes to music, and when I listen to whether it be hip hop or rock, like if it has like a pop element to it that is somewhat catchy, like it really strikes me. And then I was just kind of going through all this, and where did this all come from this year? Like, and I guess it's probably like further back too, but like this music's, I love it. It's really, really good.
Thank you, dude. I really appreciate that. I try hard, so I love to hear that. Thank you. So it's an interesting question. It's been an interesting journey personally, musically. So, again, I started the Young Sires with Ben, and I didn't produce it all, right? I didn't touch a computer. I would write with him just, vocals and melodies and stuff, but he was producing everything when we started it. And he got me on Logic, and he got me learning how to produce, and he kind of showed me what's up, and in a lot of ways taught me most of what I know about producing. And so once I had those tools, I just started kind of creating my own stuff for fun.
Yeah.
And then as eventually we got to a point with the Young Sires where there started to be some conflict, or just like we would butt heads a little bit about where we were going musically and like what we would do, right? And so it started. It wasn't crazy, but it just I started to notice it was becoming difficult, and like I wanted to have stuff sound a certain way or different that he didn't necessarily. He wanted to go a different direction. So that's when I started my solo project, Danny Suede, as a way to make whatever I wanted, however I wanted, and then be able to let go and just kind of trust him with a lot of the vision and the sound for the Young Sires. So, and that worked amazingly, right? And he helped me produce at the time all of it, and write it and record it and do all that. And then, through that, so I would make a bunch of songs and stuff, and there was always a part of me that loved the what I call like bubblegum pop, or like really happy pop. Like I've always been a huge fan of Owl City, like almost closeted, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, because I love Owl City and I think he's just an amazing artist. And, but it's the type of thing where if you roll up at the stoplight and you're blasting Fireflies, it's like, you might turn it down a little bit, like depending on who's over there.
Yeah.
Like, so it was kind of that. And, Ben, there was this thing where Ben, because he was so ahead of me in a lot of ways, and taught me so much of what I knew, he would influence me a lot, right? And I think in the beginning stages of what I was making, it had a negative effect in that, he would be like, I'd be making something and he'd be like, oh, dude, try using these samples, right? These samples are really cool. And then I would do it and make something, and then he would be like, dude, this is so sick. Like, this is my favorite thing you've made or whatever. And that would have like such a strong impact on me to have that like approval that I would like, it swerved my whole style into like a more edgy way, because that's what he likes. He likes just pushing the envelope as edgy as it can go, just new, innovative, crazy mode. And so for a long time, I just subconsciously accepted that I needed to try to be more edgy and like more cool and like this different thing. And a lot of my music reflected that. And along the way, I did this EP. I did it at a collab with this girl in Florida. And I made it, it was super poppy. It was like super happy, poppy music. And I loved it. And I was like, oh, this is like my excuse to be able to make this music because I'm collabing with this person. So it's not like exactly my brand.
Yeah. What song was that?
So that was an EP called Far Out. And I think Bye Baby was the main song on that I think did the best. But there was 4 tracks on there, which we wrote and recorded together. And then I was like, oh, I freaking love it. Like, I loved that music. I love making that music. But then I kind of still went back to the edgy thing. And it wasn't until recently where, when I was in LA this past year and a half, where, I had a good meditation practice going every day, and I was consistent with it. And I just had an epiphany one day while I was meditating where I was like, that pop style of music that's happy and uplifting and like almost cheesy is like, that's what I love. Like, that's literally what I like. That's what I love. That's what I want to make. And I just have it in my head that like, it's not cool or like whatever. And I was just like, fuck that. And I just let go of that. Can I swear on here?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sorry. So I just let go of that and I basically started doing this thing where naturally, because I'm so pessimistic and tend towards like depression and negativity and pessimism, like just naturally, I make music. And I think that's why I like the pop music, because it makes me feel happy and good and like uplifted. And like, so I make music purposefully to make myself feel like that and make other people feel like that. So that's my guiding light. And still some songs I put out can be a little sad or like a little edgy or whatever. And I'm not like too crazy about it, but that's the direction I want to go. That's the direction I like going. And that's the core of my music now. And a lot of it reflects that. And a lot of the new stuff I have coming out that I'm working on now is like just dialed like in that direction. So that's where I'm at now. Musically.
No, it's really cool. I mean, it's just, a couple stories come to mind personally when I think of when you're like hiding like the pop side, because like I was like the kid who like loved NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, but like this is 1998, 99, but I couldn't be a 14-year-old boy liking this music outwardly. Like I had to hide it. I didn't even own the CD. Like my brother owned it. Like my 8-year-old brother owned it, and like I was like stealing it from him to listen to like NSYNC.
Nice.
And it comes from like I just grew up with all the pop, like with Madonna, Michael Jackson, George Michael, like all of the and I remember my parents, they took me to go see New Kids on the Block in St. Louis when I was like 6 years old. And it's always like, pop music has always just been a part of me. And then when I was younger, I got into R&B and hip hop, but some part of me just like thought that like I could not like pop music. And even so much so that like when I started listening to like the BTS, like K-pop, like I felt weird listening to it because it was just like a mid 30-year-old white man should not be listening to this music. And I was like, no, that's wrong. Like anyone should be able to enjoy whatever music they want to listen to. Yeah. and so like when I heard this, I was just like, well, this doesn't sound like anything that anyone's doing in Spokane. So I had to talk to you about it. And like just like and it shows like with the listens on here that other people love it too. Like, so what has that been like with like getting your music, having so many people listen to it and like connecting with it?
Good question. I think I have such big dreams. Like to me, I have a genuine struggle with like looking at my listeners and followers and all that. And I naturally, when I look at it, extremely dissatisfied. I'm like, this is nothing. Like like I'm borderline embarrassed of how many people don't listen to me, right?
Right.
And it's not because I think my music is so good or anything. It's just like I want to literally murder it. Like I want to go crazy mode. So it's hard to have like these huge goals and also be content with where you're at, because when I look at it, I'm like 50,000 plays in a month for me. I'm like, that's amazing, right? And and the thing is, I think I have right now about 15,000 listeners. But the songs get streamed multiple times, and people do. With my ads and the interactions I have online, like people are a lot of times that contact me are super passionate. They're like, dude, I love this. I listen to this hella times today. This is amazing. Makes me feel great. Da da da. I see that. I love that. I try to hold on to that as much as I can and focus on that because I love that and it's amazing. But at the end of the day, my dreams and goals are like so much bigger than where I'm at. I have this hard balancing act where I try when I feel dissatisfied to let it be fuel, right? And not be upset or like discouraged and say, and let it fuel me to push and move further than where I'm at. And I also try to look at what I have and where I'm at and acknowledge the success I have had and be proud of it and try to balance that. But that's a huge thing that I deal with as an artist, like in my life, trying to manage and balance those two things because I think they're both important. To a certain degree.
It's very well. I think what you're talking about is imposter syndrome. I think we all get it. Like, it is. I would be very. I know a lot of local artists, and I'm not saying you're local at all. I'm just saying like locally based artists would be over the moon to have as many listeners. And I think you should definitely be proud of it because it's really, really freaking cool.
So the other thing I would say on that is like behind the scenes, there's probably a lot that people don't understand. I don't know how much. Other artists around here, what as far as promotion and like I'm analytical. So like, dude, I'm like trying to study the Spotify algorithm and it's like it goes deep, right? So when you look at Spotify, like your song, depending on how many saves, the save to play ratio, how many stream to listener ratio, all those, there's like certain numbers that if you hit, there's a popularity score that Spotify assigns your song. And once it gets over a certain score, that's a percentage, then it starts really getting on Discover Weekly and starts getting on Release Radar and these other playlists and starts getting put out on radio. Yeah. And so if you look at my streams and my numbers, a significant amount of it is due to algorithmic playlists where it's getting pushed out to people by the algorithm. And it's not necessarily a fan. Gotcha. And I've learned through Facebook ads and different ways of like I target, people who like that uplifting pop music, pop artists, whatever. And I make ads where I'm like, literally the ad is me being like, hey, what's up? I'm Danny Suede. I make music to make you feel happy and make you feel uplifted. If that sounds good to you, check this out, right? So I'm just like straight boom. So, and I'm dialed with that. Like I have an ad guy I work with, and I'm trying, right, to really figure that out and to try to get it out to as many people as possible. So I spend a lot of money on advertising. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out that algorithm and strategy, how I'm going to do all this shit. So it's not like I'm just putting out music and it's going great. Right. I'm freaking, I'm trying out here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't think about that when they're making music. They don't think about the marketing aspect of it and like how much that plays into it. And like I listened to this one guy, he's a hip hop artist based out of LA. His name's Pertinence, and he has a big, TikTok following. But he went on a podcast to just kind of talk about the algorithm and like how much playlists matter and how much, all of that matters and how much it's a game, and I could see like when you think of it, like, because there's a lot of people that are just like, they're happy with their 500 listeners and like they're not doing any marketing, but I could see if you're spending money on it, I could see how like you would want more from it. Like when you're making music and you're doing and you're creating, but you're probably not thinking about, are you thinking about the marketing aspect of it, or how like, pop music is just like is in right now. Like, listen to Sabrina Carpenter's, how her rise to fame. And obviously she had the help of Taylor Swift going on a world tour with her last year. But like, it is like very much like pop music is back. I feel like. What are your thoughts?
I agree.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm in a massive transitionary period in my life right now, and part of that's like going the nomad mode and traveling and all that. But I'm also, like I said, retiring from social media soon, because I think something has kind of happened online that was so not necessarily so rapid, but it's almost like a frog being boiled, where everyone online, not everyone, so many people online. I actually wrote a blog post about this, and this is like a whole nother thing, but it's almost like these algorithms are gods to people, and they are influencing people's behavior. Like people's behavior is so often, especially as creatives, geared towards pleasing an algorithm. It's like you're doing all this stuff and like manipulating your art and your behavior to like make this like black box of power or technology like you and give you good favor. Yeah. And it's this weird thing that's happening to everyone and just absolutely distorts your interaction with your art as an artist. And it's kind of cheesy, but like I want to get back to a place where like it's more sacred than that.
Yeah.
And I want, that's partially the reason I'm disconnecting, and I'm gonna, like I said, I'm really analytical and looking at the algorithm and all that, but I want to let go of that and focus all of that energy, or as much as I can, into just making the most meaningful things I can that I love, and let all that other stuff kind of flow from it, but just be focused on the art more and still have strategy, but disconnected from this like soul-sucking algorithm online thing that for me is just mentally unhealthy, and I feel like it makes my art suffer, and I do not want my art to be influenced by that. Like I don't want to be making a song and thinking like, what TikTok can I do, or like what, like, can I put this bridge in even though it's weird, because then people might not listen to the whole song and then the algorithm will detect that and not like it. And those kind of choices, like, I don't want to make those choices. I want to be like, the question is, do I love this? Does this fulfill the goal for my music, which is making people feel this way or think about this certain thing? That is the guiding light, not the algorithms, not the numbers, not the plays, not the streams, not the money, not any of that other stuff. And I know I will have to care about that stuff to a certain degree. It's inescapable, but I want to really dial it back, because as a creator and a person online, like this whole thing just happened to me without me noticing to a certain degree, like the way I interact with all these apps and Facebook and Instagram and all this. And I'm just like, I didn't sign up for this willingly, and I want to take a step back in a big way. So,
well, that's very admirable. I talking to a lot of like, the rat race of the algorithm is somewhat, I mean, you become a slave to it, obviously. And like, that's what you're basically like saying. And like, it isn't fun. Like, I don't love like having to like try to always post. Like sometimes I just put a podcast out to put a podcast out. Yeah. And if people listen to it, they listen to it. And if they don't, like, I don't want to have to market everything I do. I feel like I have to do it, for my guests. Like I want to do it for my guests, but like, it's so true. Like to make art, you should just want to make art. Like you don't need to be a slave to anything. And yeah, no, I feel you there. Like, and you just love pop music. So like, what are your influences? You mentioned Owl City, but like, what else do you love listening to?
When I left school, like public school in 8th grade, right? So I was doing online school on a computer, and I'd never really had like my own music before that I listened to. That I'm like, this is my music. You know, I was raised basically on worship music and on the radio in the car and that kind of stuff. But my brother had downloaded the entire discography of Reliant K, and that was literally the only music that was on the computer. Yeah, on iTunes. It was just you go on there and it was just the whole Reliant K discography, and so I was jamming that for years, that whole thing. Right, so that influenced me deeply through that, and I absolutely love them. I have the flower from MMHMM tattooed on me. Massive influence. My first show was them at the Knitting Factory. Yeah, with Owl City opening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Owl City literally opened for them on that at the first show I ever went to. So that's funny. I didn't put that together till now.
I saw Reliant K play at, I forget what this place is, the A Club. It was on Pacific. It was like it was on Pacific in like this alley, and I saw them in a really small club, and it was I saw probably Reliant K, 4 or 5 times when they came through here back. I was a good Christian boy back in the day.
Nice.
Listen to Reliant K, and at one time, one of my favorite stories to tell is I was at the Christian Supply, and I was like trying to find some new music because like back in like by 2002 2001, like I had to go to like Hastings or I had to go to wherever to really dig in. And I went to the Christian Supply, and the guy who worked the music place, he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, like, notice you hear a lot. Like, what are you looking for?" I'm just like, "I was looking for some new music." And he's like, "Do you like secular music?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You should go listen to this. You like this one band? I forget what Christian band version of it was, but he's like, you should go listen to Dashboard Confessional."
Nice.
And I was like, and so I went and I was like, oh my gosh, my whole world opened up to like better music, not better music, but like different music.
I get what you're saying.
But like,
that's funny.
But yeah, Reliant K, and then
so Reliant K, big influence.
Yeah,
Owl City, Parachute, the band Parachute. John Bellion influenced me a lot.
John Bellion. Oh man, I was talking to a friend the other day about John Bellion, and I took my kids to go see Jonas Brothers last fall at Dodger Stadium because we're like, we need to take they saw Carmen Jane, but I was like, want their first big concert to be somewhere cool that they remember. Yeah. So I took them to see Jonas Brothers because we absolutely fell in love with like their latest album, and it was all produced by John Bellion.
That's amazing.
And Lawrence opened for them too.
Wow.
And but I told my friend, like, do you know about John Bellion? And he's like, yeah, he's great. I was just like, it's too bad he can't be famous with his music because like he's such an amazing musician. And I was like, yeah, like and then I went down his rabbit hole of music, and I was just like, this guy's amazing. Like he's making amazing music, and more people should be listening to it.
He's a one-of-one, dude.
Yeah,
that artist is a one-of-one artist. It's to the point like where I'll hear like I remember hearing a Maroon 5 song. And I just hear a harmony on it. And I was like, that's a John Bellion harmony. And I look at the credits, sure enough, writing around that. And I was like, he's so unique and has such his own style and way of doing things that, like I said, I can pick it up on songs. Like one of my friends and I, we always joke, we're like, oh, dude, we know a lot of times when he wrote a song because he just has a way about him. And he's amazing. And I think too, he's pretty. I don't think he's online that much. I think he's dialed in his bubble, and I think that's part of the reason why he's like that, because he's just about the music in his bubble. And I don't know if he's worrying about being that famous or being
right.
That
maybe he's not.
crazy.
Yeah, no, he's probably. I mean, I imagine part of him is very happy that the Jonas Brothers are doing great, and then who else he's producing for is doing good. Like I mean, he's doing what he loves, making music with great artists. Yeah. So like that's I wanted to go down a quick little K-pop rabbit hole with you. Like I'm a huge BTS fan. Like what was your introduction to K-pop?
So I think it was during COVID too. And it was through a video. It was through Blackpink.
Oh.
Little bit of this. What is that song? I don't even know the name of the song, but the video, I was like, this music video is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then I just got into them, and it was like Playing with Fire and like that EP. And I was like, I showed Ben too, and I was like, dude, and then it was from them I discovered Red Velvet, and I think I knew about BTS and that's like some of their hits. I was onto it, but like I went through that rabbit hole, got into like Red Velvet, and then just like went into the world and was just like ripping it.
I need to check Red Velvet out.
Dude,
my favorite like kind of off like track like K-pop band is Mamamoo.
Okay,
they're really good. They're four. I don't think they're together anymore, but they're four women, and they are amazing. Like they're just really really good. K-pop is just like something. I think we'll always hold it. Like I don't listen to it as much anymore, but like it's very special to me. And like now that like all BTS is like coming out with all their solo stuff, like it will always just kind of, you know, they're all becoming their own artists. They're all like making the music that they want to make kind of right now. But yeah, no, it's the world of music is just like it's such an amazing place because there's just so much of it now, and there's like, and you know, I try to discover new artists all the time because there's so many people that are trying to hustle and beat the algorithm, but there's so many people that should just be like, that should be so big that they're not, you know.
It's hard. And so to go back to K-pop for a second, I think the coolest, one of the things too that stuck out to me about K-pop is Ben, he read this book before we were really into K-pop. I think it's about pop music. It's about Dennis Pop and then his protege Max Martin, who did NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, which, you know, he's the most basically prolific songwriter of all time, has more number ones than anyone, I think, or at least he did up until a year ago. Maybe someone's passing him by now, but you know, he did Britney Spears, he did Ariana Grande, like he did her last stuff. He's just absolutely king of number ones in pop music, like king of pop music for sure, hands down. But anyway, so they were doing, they were doing Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and whatever. Well, Korea just basically, because I think I forget what exactly how exactly it happened, but eventually I think it came to a point where Korea was like, yo, we're just gonna copy this, right?
Yeah,
like we're gonna do this thing, but they did it like a factory, right? And they I think it was also even part of a like government initiative to like spread Korean culture out. And they do camps, dude. It's like these kids are trained from when they're a kid to sing and dance like super good. And then it's like they pick the perfect ones, and it's like, you know, it's not like here, right? It's math there. It's crazy. And they just learning that too was inspiring. I was like, this is so cool because you look at it and you're like, no wonder they're so sick, because it's like these giant companies that are like putting all their efforts in just getting the cream of the crop artists that have been trained since they're kids to like just kill it. Yeah. And so you just get this amazing product. Like it's just literally top level product.
Yeah.
Like,
my favorite rabbit hole to go down is like rehearsals, or like the rehearsal like videos where they're just doing the entire dance and not like doing the performance part of it or doing like the singing part of it, and like how much like time and effort just goes into like practicing those dance moves, and how like what world-class dancers they are. Yeah. Like I was showing my kids, I'm like, so this is NSYNC and this is how they used to dance, and then you go to BTS and this is how they dance. Like it's completely night and day. Like, I mean, NSYNC's great for what they were, but like they could never touch what the type of dancers like NCT, BTS.
Yeah,
like,
NCT 127 is a huge influence for TYS, for the Young Sires.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we looked at the kind of the stuff they were doing too, musically and just visually even too. So that K-pop, that part of K-pop at least influenced a ton of the Young Sires.
Oh, cool.
What we were doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, it's so with all of this, with what you're doing with your music, I know you're retiring from social media. You're going on this long break where you're going to go to Thailand and Bali. But but is this the plan? Is like just make music and tell me about. I want like the vision behind it.
Danny Suede, like my brand. I want that to be like my full time eventually. Like that's totally the goal. Is music's a massive part of it. If I could choose one thing to do forever, it would be producing and making music for sure. Like that's like the pinnacle for me. But I do merch with it. Like I have this. I used to do like a ton of clothes and stuff. I basically shut it down. I'm just starting to restart it now. And still centered around that thing, like uplifting, inspiring messages and vibe with merch and clothing and stuff like that. And then I recently too started doing a blog where I just started writing. There's this guy named Dan Coe on YouTube, and there was a point in LA, like in the past year, where I was really going hard on social media. I was like, I'm going to post every day. I'm going to rip it on content. I'm going to go for this. And he basically has this video about a content strategy where you use a blog to basically say, okay, here's where I am, here's where I want to go, or my goal. And you chunk that into goals like along the way, and then write about those goals in long form. And then you can turn those pieces of those, posts, those blog posts into tweets and TikToks, and you can make videos of them. And it's kind of like a content strategy that also helps you get where you're going.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is sick. I'm going to try this. So I started the blog, and initially that's what the blog was. But I eventually got to a point where I was just like, I love writing, and it's so clarifying. Like it actually changed my life in the way I think, to just start writing about what I'm thinking about or dealing with or trying to figure out when I'm trying to make a decision or whatever. And I just totally fell in love with it. So I just it's called Wonderneath, and it's like a weekly blog, and I write about just my life and my journey and my music and all kinds of stuff. And I love it. And then I have a YouTube channel too that's separate from my music YouTube channel, where I take blog posts that are either popular or meaningful to me, and then I'm going to start turning those into YouTube videos, and also doing like long form vlogs of my travels, and just my journey and whatever I want, like whatever feels meaningful or whatever I want to share. And so that, like, all of that working together, and right now that's the kind of goal for my life and where I want to go.
That's awesome.
All those things in tandem. Yeah.
I wanted to go back and touch base on one song that kind of stuck out to me that you've released over the last year, or last, I guess, like 6 months, was your single that you did with Gatlin Dean Williams. Yeah. And because I was like, of all the things that you've released over the last couple of months, that one like really stuck out just because he's a country artist, and I was like, how did this song come together? And because it's a little bit different.
It's really cool because so that dude was he's younger than me, and he rode my bus at Freeman, right? So I know him from that, right? And we were like kids. Yeah. And it's this really cool thing. I actually did a blog post about this when the song came out, because we didn't necessarily get along, and I think to a certain degree I had an experience with him. Like I was a good kid, I was a nice kid, but I wasn't perfect. And one of the first times, like, I remember we'd mess with him. He was a nice kid too, but he was easy to upset. And so when you're kids, you will poke at people like that sometimes. Like if it's like
my son's like
fruit.
that.
Yeah. So there you go. So we were messing with him one day, and he's getting all mad at us and whatever, and we're bugging him. And so we get called to the principal's office, and she's like, hey, stop messing with him. And I'm like, well, he hit us with his backpack. And she's like, yo, I was watching the whole thing from the window. You're provoking him and making him mad, and he hit you. And I had this epiphany in that moment where I was like, dude, I am a bully. Like, I was being a bully. Like, that was me being a bully. And it was a huge moment of self-awareness that, like, kind of flipped a switch in my life where I hadn't ever considered the possibility that, like, I could be a piece of shit, right? And so it was this really meaningful moment for me that was tied to him. So anyways, fast forward 10 years or something, and I see on Instagram that he's doing country music and writing songs and doing music. Yeah. So I hit him up, and I just said, hey, dude, if you want to rip a session, let's do it. And that's when I was living here before I moved to LA. So he came through, and before he got there, I cooked up a little beat, little guitar part and stuff, and then we just sent it and wrote that. Yeah. And two, I had a chance to even talk to him about that stuff, and I was like, hey, bro, like, I'm sorry for being a dick, whatever, and got to, like, get that off my chest and everything. So that was, like, a cool thing that happened through the song. And then I tried to get the song mixed, and mixing music for me is like, so, I don't mix. So like I have to send it out, and it's always so hard. And getting the song to feel like I want it to feel, and someone else mixing it has been the biggest challenge in music for me by far. Mm-hmm. And so that the song wasn't ready, and I didn't get it to a place, and it just got shelved in the vault. Right. Yeah. And then I even got it out later, probably a year later, and we re-recorded a bunch of the vocals with him, with my friend Brian. And then I got all those, still tried to make it happen, didn't happen. Vault again, right? And then when I was in LA recently, I was like, okay, I'm at a place now where Ben now mixes my stuff. And we got to a place musically where I was like, okay, I think this can happen. So I dialed it in and we got it mixed, and it almost didn't come out. And I almost didn't do any promotion or ads for it just because it was kind of different. But it ended up being my most popular song by far, and like people do love it. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's
it
had a lot of listens, but but most importantly, it's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
And but it also reminded me like of this world of the algorithm, but like. I feel like country music is just like in this really interesting space with music because like of what Beyonce did, but now it just feels like everyone is releasing like country music. Not saying that's what you're doing, but like it's a very I don't know if I like it because I was always the person that said I don't like country music, and now I'm starting to like country music for some stupid reason.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I there was a point in my life where it's not like I didn't like country music. I hated country music passionately, and I would tell you, and I hated it. And I eventually just learned to love it. And it's similar to the K-pop thing where, you know, if you go to Nashville and like these people that are doing country music, it's skill level, they're insane. Like songwriters, and it's like that's why I think country music is so popular, because even if you can say the cliche thing like my truck and my dog and dirt, it's still just freaking so good. Like the songwriting, the production, the way it sounds. Like you listen to like Casey Musgraves, like if you listen to Slow Burn, the way that song sonically, dude, is so good, dude. Like, it's so good. And so I think just naturally a lot of people gravitate towards that because it's top level. And you know, that dude, Gatlin, he's a super sick artist, dude. His voice is sick. I wrote the most of the instrumental for that, but like he wrote the hook, he wrote his verses. Wow. Like he's a gangster and he's awesome. And he's in Nashville too now. But yeah, and funny enough, Ben actually produced a country song way back when we lived here before, long time ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it didn't necessarily, it got put out, but it didn't get the love. And I always loved that song. He didn't even like it, I think, working on it, but I loved it. So I recently hit up the lady that wrote it and recorded it. And I just did a session with her, redid the production, my style. And we're going to redo it and put it out.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's
That's
called
awesome.
American Memories. It's freaking sick, dude. And it's like now kind of a country pop vibe collab that I'm going to do again, kind of just to follow up with that, because that was obviously popular and I love it. So if I can swerve into that space, I'm happy to.
It's funny. I just watched half of it. I watched It All Begins with a Song. It's a documentary about country writers or about songwriters in Nashville, and just like how much like they kind of start off by saying like you can't go anywhere without, like, there's banks that have stages in them. There's places that perform everywhere there, and everyone's writing. Everyone's trying to make it. Like, imagine living in Spokane. Like, everyone you run into is like a musician. That's basically the same what Nashville's like. But this documentary was just amazing about all these people you don't know who are writing. Like John, he wasn't in it, but like all these amazing people that are just writing this amazing music. Yeah. So, So I mean, you're gonna, like, I know what's next is this. You're gonna be traveling, but like, what's further down the line? Do you have like, you're gonna come out of this with like another vision or
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's next. I think so. When I come back from Bali, I'm gonna be here with my family for the holidays, spend time with them, and then I got a trip to Costa Rica booked. I have one-way ticket to Costa Rica, so I don't know where I'm going after that. And I think I'm going to discover a lot on this trip. Like, it's a long time, and I want to focus and dial and like get rid of all the distractions. Not only am I doing the social media retirement, but I'm like doing a cleanse. Like, it's basically no movies, no podcasts, no TV shows, no anything. Like, and there will be maybe a TV show or a movie I watch, like something that, because I'm also a VFX nerd since I do visuals. Like, I love VFX. So like, you know, the next Avatar that comes out, I'm watching it. You know, things like Dune 2, I'm watching it. The Rings of Power, I'm probably going to watch. But other than that, don't watch TV. Not going to listen to podcasts. Part of my goal when I'm gone is to not know who wins the November election. I just want to tap out of there, dude. Like, I just want to tap out.
I want to piece out of that too.
Yeah. So that's kind of the goal for me. And I think it's going to be a lot of discovery. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like I said, I would like to make my life into just doing the things I naturally do, like making the art I make, putting into the world what comes naturally to me and what I can put into the world to help make the world more like what I want it to be. Yeah. Just do that and have my life be that. And two, I'm at a point now where I would love to have a family. So it's like I'm on the lookout, and if I can get married and have kids or do something like that, I would love for that chapter of my life to start at some point, if possible. Who knows? But so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. When you mentioned like not I was just like, there was a world where you could do all that stuff that you're saying, and we didn't have to have social media to do it.
Yeah.
It does feel like social media is like such a crutch now, where it's like almost, it's a rat race, and it really is like it's somewhat exhausting when you're on it all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot to be said there. I think we are right on the cusp of some type of mass exodus from the traditional way we're interfacing with social media and a lot of these platforms. I know for me, my retirement, there's been a few people that I've seen do similar things or be a similar way that have really inspired me to disconnect to a certain degree. Partially because of their work. I look at their work and I'm like, who is this person? And like, why are they making this? And how are they making this? And I find out that they're just not online, right? They're just doing their thing, what they love. And I think too, we're starting to see, especially for the younger generation, how unhealthy it is for a lot of kids. That's starting to become apparent. And I just think everyone's different. There's people who thrive on social media and they can be mentally healthy and they love making it and they love the content and they love doing a million TikToks and they're great at it. And it's awesome. And I don't want to, belittle that. I think that's fine if that's what you like and what you do. And there are people like that can consume a lot of social media and be on it and do it and they're happy and good and whatever. That's fine. I know for me, like, just given the social media cleanses I've done in the past, I've done like a month or a little over that with Ben and Cammie and stuff in LA where we just cut stuff off. And it's like the mental clarity, it's like you don't know how shitty you feel until even getting off of it, you don't notice. Then when it's over and I would go back on, I would just be like, dude, I'm basically sick to my stomach from scrolling on Instagram. Like it would just, my mental storm. And it's just for the way my mind is and the way I am personally, it just is super unhealthy for me. It's like too, I want to focus on my art. There's states I get in where I'm really focused and it's like, I just have so much clarity of what I'm doing and how to do it and how to make everything work. And I feel like when I'm online, it's almost like being in a giant room full of people yelling at each other and it's all this noise and you're trying to talk to someone across the room. Yeah. And it's like, you ever like had an AC unit on and then it turns off and you didn't notice it was on, but you're just in this peaceful, it's just like quiet and you're like, holy shit. Yeah. That's what it's like for my mind. No, totally. When I disconnect and I'm just like, it's like I can think straight and all the time I feel like with everything I'm trying to do, I'm like this. I'm like, and I'm catching this and doing this, and I'm like in this totally crazy tornado state all the time. Yeah. And I want to still have intensity with what I do and go hard, but I just want it to be more like flowy and like Tai Chi mode, and I'm like going fast, but I'm like dialed, not so like just out of control. And so I just, for me, and I imagine tons of other people are like that, experience that, and I think I'm not the only one getting fed up, and I think you're gonna, and hopefully too, I can just show other people that, hey, this might be an option, and I want to find a way to, even though leaving social media and all this stuff there's a cost. Like social media, people are on it for a reason as businesses and as creators, right? It's like one of the best ways to get out there. And I want to find, and if I can, pioneer new ways to market and to reach people and to grow audiences and grow a community that is way less focused on all that sensationalist, like quick content and all that, and hopefully find a new formula and a new way to make that happen and make that sustainable, or at least be a part of that. Yeah. And share that with other people if I can. So that's where I'm at.
I mean, I never really talk about this much but if anyone ever sees me not on social media for a while, it's because I just don't want to be there, and I don't want to share stories. I don't want to share posts. Like I just don't like. But then there's days when I'm inspired. I want to, and I want to put something out there that I want to put out there. But like, I don't subscribe to this whole world of like, I need to post 3 times a week. I need to have a story up, like at least one story up for 24 hours, every 24 hours. So I'm always there. Mm-hmm. Like I don't subscribe to it. I know a lot of people do, but like, it's just not the world I, want to live in. But it also, like, I do spend a lot of time on there, and I could use a cleanse. Like my dad has a cabin up in Idaho, and he doesn't have cell phone service or Wi-Fi. And you literally cannot connect.
That's amazing.
And when you don't know that when I don't have my phone on me, it's like that. It's like what you're saying. Like, it's like you immediately, don't need to be attached to this. Like, and I should do this at night. I should just like put my phone away, take my watch off. Like, I don't always need to be alerted of when things are happening, because it's just not worth it. It does sound like you're going to have some type of presence online. Like, and so how will people be able to find you?
Yeah. So the main things I'm focusing on is music. So Spotify, right? My blog, which is dannysuede.substack.com. It's called Wonderneath.
Yeah.
I do a weekly thing. So I do like photo dumps on there. I do updates on there. And then I have like a whole post where I write about a certain topic.
Yeah.
That could be, it ranges. But so as far as staying up to date with me, that's where you can do that. DannySuede.substack.com. And DannySuede.com has all the links and everything on there if you want to see everything. And then I'm going to do my store, so my merch store and that kind of thing. And then I have my YouTube channel, also called Wonderneath, that is going to have vlogs and basically video versions of a lot of my blog posts. And I'm going to focus my energy on that. I'm definitely, my presence is going to be online. Like I'm going to keep ripping Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and all that stuff. So it's like, I want to be out there. I just don't want it coming in, right? I'm going to try to not let it come in, and I'm going to be out there. I want to be in front of people, and I want to be out there and find new ways to market, and stuff like this is amazing. Like I love doing this. And so that's kind of
you're just getting off of it. You're just like, you're not going to spend the time like doom scrolling and trying to always be seeing what's going on.
Exactly.
I get that. Yeah. Actually, I mean, now that you say it like that, I don't spend a lot of time on stories or on anything really. I'm just doom scrolling TikTok, watching like comedians.
Dude, same dude. I'll get in a doom scroll. Like it's crazy to me. Like it's like drugs, man. Like I don't know if you've ever been in the position where I've been in a position where I'm literally locked in my bed on a doom scroll and like my phone dies. And I just thank God. I just throw it and I go, oh, thank you. Like it just literally feels like someone's choking you, and then just like finally you can breathe. Yeah. Like so, I'm like that. Enough of that experience, dude. And I'm just like, I can't do it. I got to figure out a way.
I definitely have I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock, and I am at 2 o'clock in the morning still on TikTok. Yep. So like it happens, and and it ruins my sleep.
Yeah, you're not alone, dude. You're not alone.
Well, thank you so much for joining me here on Spokast, and. I mean, I'm excited to see what all this new music that comes out. I will encourage anyone that's listening, go Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal.
Tidal, yeah. They pay the most. So.
Do they?
Yeah. Per stream they pay the most.
Oh, nice. Yeah. But yeah, go stream Danny Suede. Listen to his new music. It's really it's good pop music, meta pop. I said that to someone last night. I said I'm interviewing this guy. He does like this what he calls meta pop, and she's like, metal pop, and I'm like, no, meta pop. But yeah. I was, and I played a song for her, and she was like, cause she was the person I took. We went together to go see BTS in LA,
nice. And
we love pop music. Nice. So keep on doing what you're doing, and but the last question I always ask though is why Spokane?
Okay, so first I want to say thank you. I know doing this is a ton of work. I really appreciate you letting me come on here. I also think that what you do here is sick. I think the fact that you provide a platform for people in the community to come on, share what they're doing, and get out there and all that, I think that's awesome. It's inspiring to me. I think it's dope, so thank you. That's really sick. Why Spokane? I think if I'm being honest, the reason is family. Like my family's from here. I want to be near my family. And I think that is probably why I'm here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, dude, for coming on. And again, go listen to Danny's music. And
get it.
And until next time, peace.
This ain't a love thing, we fucking, but it's lovely. Humping, bumping uglies, what a fun thing. Nothing, but it's something, what I'm wanting. It's a real freak bitch with a tongue ring. You know that one girl that do that one thing. She made it disappear, she a mind freak. She ain't playing games like a bye week. When I touch down, show me to the end zone. Show me anything but the friend zone.